Hi, I apologize for the delay in getting this back to you all, but I wanted to re-record it. This is a challenging time for us right now. There's so much going on, and at the same time, for some of us, there's nothing going on. I cannot listen to the news anymore, and I barely even skim the headlines online. I do not know what to believe. So I scan Facebook and Instagram for those short blurbs of information that resonate somewhere inside of me, and I might like the page. Sometimes I might share the page, but and sometimes I might even add my own witty or cynical comments to really drive that point home. Overall, I'm doing well. I go for a walk or a run, I call people, but then I hit this wall of inactivity and I feel that spiral going down. And before it even considers going back up, it never stops at what I feel is normal. And now people are asserting that there is no normal, that we can never go back to normal, but it's going to be a new normal. And I don't understand that. I mean, because isn't it always a new normal? Isn't every day a new normal? It was always a new normal before the virus, and tomorrow's always going to be a new normal after the virus. And in New Thought, we already know that every day is a new day. And we all know that we already know that it's all God. So there's this piece like that, these statements like, oh, it's all meant to be, or God doesn't give us more than what we can handle. Sometimes these things are not always as reassuring as they are meant to be. And I'm aware that these one-liners can strike a chord. Some can even become a resonant affirmation used to raise our self-awareness and our faith. And I have my favorites as well. But right now, I don't feel like I have a spiritual bone in my body. Some days I just don't. I feel tired. And I am more than a bit cynical. And however, well, I may not feel spiritual, I know that I still have faith. And this is the key for me. What I know through my faith is that for every action, there is always an opposite and equal reaction. Water, as we know, will rise to its own level by its own weight. Cause and effect, equal balance. And the balance of our personal knowledge of God must come from our direct experiences. We must learn that intimate balance of faith and experience for ourselves, our own cause and effect. Over the past few weeks, I've decided that trying to achieve or to find that mysterious balance within is not like trying to get to Florida. It's not a destination. It's not a place. Balance is a process. Academically, I know balance can either be a noun or a verb, but in a spiritual context, I think balance really is a verb. Holmes talks about the concept of balance when he's discussing the book of James, chapter 5, verse 16. And Holmes says that when discussing that, he says, our minds are burdened with many things, and often our religions, which should automatically balance our mentalities, suppresses them and creates a morbidness on the subjective side of thought. My interpretation of this is that morbidness happens when we don't feel like we do enough, when we're wrong, or when we feel condemned for one reason or another, or we're not meeting our spiritual principles somehow. And it can be difficult to remember that the universe does not hold our past against us. That imbalance comes from our own subjective mind and thoughts. We must be self-reflective so we can release the judgment we carry for others and the judgment we carry for ourselves. Many of our spiritual texts that we read when speaking of faith, they go directly to natural law as examples and metaphors. When we water a plant, it grows. If we plant a carrot, we get carrots. If we plant corn, we get corn. If we plant a rose bush, we get roses. And this is where I come to my statement that balance is not a noun. It is not a place where we go to rest. It is a verb for an active environment, and that active environment is our mind. What I found interesting when I was looking for information and doing a little bit of research for this talk is that there is always, as always, a lot out there on the internet. Right now it seems like there's a little bit more. There are many articles and videos to help us achieve balance in work, to find balance when working from home. There are a multitude of workout videos to help us balance our bodies, or how to find physical and emotional balance through yoga and Tai Chi. There's something for everyone out there. It is there for us if we look for it, if we open ourselves to it. But I thought to myself, go to my own bookshelf and for what I have been taught. So I went and I pulled a dozen books and I looked in the index of these books and I read through chapter headings looking for that key word of balance. I also looked at the Book of Runes in the I Ching, and I read through books on Native American spirituality, and also those books for guidance on our sacred path, like medicine cards and power animal oracle cards or sacred path cards, and I looked and at the tarot and what they all said about balance. What I found was interesting is that the tarot is the only deck that actually has a card for balance. The I Ching doesn't have a statement of specifically about balance. The runes don't have statements specifically about balance. That the tarot does. But what the tarot card stands for in a nutshell is that balance is equal to justice in discernment. And all of these spiritual guidance type texts talk about balance as a process of becoming. Part of me thinks balance is like a suitcase. Some of us have very cool looking luggage, and we have the art of packing and unpacking down to a science, especially if we have to fly and that extra bag can only weigh 50 pounds. And if it's over 50 pounds, we have to pay more because we are out of alignment with the airline regulations. And on the outside, the suitcase looks perfect, might be a little scuffed, but on the inside, there might be just too much stuff. My personal goal is to open up my suitcase and take some things out that have been in there for far too long. Sometimes those things have been used too many times. Like for me, the thing that's been used too many times is anger and cynicism. I want to take some of those things out, and I want to put in new things. But I want to maintain balance with the contents so that I'm in line with my limit and I don't get charged for my excess baggage for acting out. What I know for myself is that, again, my baggage is revealed through my cynicism and my anger. And this is where I stumble. Because I know that this fear expressed through clever one-liners is not who I am. And it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to me inside. Rasha tells us if we find ourselves once again stumbling over the same pitfalls, then we need to recognize that the lesson has yet to become entrenched sufficiently to allow us to move on. If repetitive stumbling is happening during this time, then this is the time to stop what we're doing. Examine the dynamics of what continues to draw us into those type of energy fields. It is in understanding who we are that we find balance. We need to have substantial compassion and patience for who we are on the outside, as well as for our contents inside, releasing things that we have carried for so long that have become a part of our identity can be difficult. It can be challenging, and it can be fear-inducing. Pema Chodron discusses balance in terms of the spiritual warrior and says that the spiritual warrior walks their path looking neither to the right or to the left or from behind. There is no right or wrong. And this is not to say that we don't have responsibility for our actions, but to understand and do differently as we become aware and we walk on our path. Pema says that becoming a spiritual warrior is to be able to hold the paradox of our faith, even in places of discomfort and fear. It is when we stand at the crossroads, not knowing which way to go, that we can find ourselves. And this is where the rigidity of our views and strongly held beliefs that get reflected through our fear begin to dissolve and make way for new. To be comfortable with uncertainty, with ambiguity, is the beginning of experiencing balance. And this is also where we learn to have compassion for others and for ourselves, which is really the balance that we seek, that peace inside our own soul. So what to do? Different states around the U.S. are starting to open up gradually in stages. But are we, am I ready to come face to face with all of the fears and the concerns for ourselves and our families and our friends? I'm restless for sure, and yet I'm hesitant. So I encourage you to self-reflect. Find your internal knowing of justice and discernment. Find your own balance, and then act accordingly. When we seek wisdom from within, we are always guided back to the basics, to the truth of who we are. We, each one of us, is the light. We are the love. We are the beauty. We are the joy. We are the peace. We are the power. We are the life of the divine. Know with me that this is the truth of who you are. This is the balance that you seek. And so it is. I look forward to seeing you all again soon and getting that hug we all so desperately need. I love you very much. And until next time, be gentle with yourself.